Well, here we are. It's the second most holy days of the free market consumer religion that we call the American culture. You know what the first holy day is? Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving. You know the house that has been built for this very day. It is the sanctuary that is the stadium in Santa Clara, California. The ministers are the Reverend Ron Riviera and the Reverend Gary Kubiak. And the acolytes who will light our fires are quarterbacks Cam Newton and Peyton Manning. The stadium will be full, with the cheap seats costing, one source says, about $5,000 apiece, if you can get one. But the best seats will be in your living room. And over 110 million of us will be watching as we eat our sacramental snacks and drink our holy beer. It cost over $220 million to build this sacred house of football, founded in large part by the Levi Strauss Corporation, hence the name Levi Stadium. It has, however, come under great criticism by the fans of the San Francisco 49ers, its home team, because of its corporate atmosphere and the cost of tickets, which prohibit families from being able to worship together and pay homage to the central religion of our time, free market consumerism. Don't get me wrong. I love football. I played football when I was a kid. I imagine myself being Cam Newton and Peyton Manning. It's quite the stretch. I'll watch the game like everyone else, and I will really enjoy it. But I have to say, I squirm at the basic assumptions it reveals about us, about me. It reveals these assumptions that are like the air we breathe. Certainty is more important than mystery. Individual victory, persons, teams, or nations, is more important than community cooperation. And immediate personal financial gratification is more important than an investment in the future. Our text today gives us a different kind of house that is being built. 1 Peter tells us that God is the builder of this house. Jesus is the cornerstone, and we are the living stones. Some texts say we are the building stones that create the house. The scholarship around the book of 1 Peter says it's written late in the first century to a small ragtag group who were displaced and dispossessed by the machinations of the Roman Empire, not only spiritually or religiously, but socially, economically, and politically. They were marginalized from mainstream society. And the promise that is given to them in 1 Peter is that they will have a household, a community of identity with each other and with God. They were not winners. They were losers, according to the society. But God gave them an identity and a house. It is built on something beyond certainty, mystery, we call that God. Its goal is something beyond individualism, community, as Jesus calls us to be friends. And it makes an investment in something beyond financial profit, that is, in building a community that makes a house and a home for all who come after us. The business of football is based on certainty because winning is the central value. And if you're going to win, you got to have the best players, the best plays. There's a lot of money at stake. When certainty is at the center, people become commodities. It's just so obvious in football, where players are bought and sold. And you may have seen the movie Concussion. where the threat for their own well-being and the shortening of their lives is also at stake. We lull ourselves into a false sense of knowledge and control because we believe that we can be certain about things. Not that certainty shouldn't have a place, but the house that God is building has something else at the center, and that is mystery. Because without mystery, you don't have the context for surprise. If you're certain about everything and you think you control everything, then anything that happens outside of your knowledge and your control, you can just do away with because it's not really real. You didn't plan for it. You remember the story, right? Moses leading the slaves out of Egypt, where in Egypt, they weren't human beings, but they were cogs in the ancient economy of Pharaoh. And they went into the unknown, which we call the wilderness. In the ancient world, it's the place of mystery. And there they were, thinking that they would die of starvation, but they were surprised by manna for bread and quail for meat. But even though they got the manna and quail, they weren't allowed to keep it until the next day. Remember that part? And so they got upset about this. Why not? What if it doesn't come tomorrow? No, you have to trust. You give it up and you allow it. You allow yourself to trust the mystery for the next day. Just by the way, even when they had trusted it for a while, they said to Moses, complaining, "We don't like this. The day might come when we don't get anything. We want to go back to Egypt. I know we were slaves there, but at least we know we were going to get a couple meals a day. We knew where our food was coming from." Certainty ought not be at the center. Beyond certainty lay mystery. Mystery, which is not a problem to be solved, but an opening into the unknown, the admission that we do not know everything, so that surprise and newness might happen. Beyond certainty lay mystery, and beyond individualism lay community. Jesus is the cornerstone of the house that is being built. And the book of John has Jesus saying to his disciples after communion that they are no longer servants, but they are friends. And he gives a bit of a definition. He says that servants are people who don't know the work of their master. In other words, they don't know the vision, the work of what their master is doing. But friends know the vision and the work. And so they are friends. They are friends with Jesus and with each other and with God. And the work, Jesus says in that very same passage, is love one another. Not much of a contract there, right? Love one another. I mean, in the business world, you got to have contracts, right? You got to know this, or big trouble coming if somebody doesn't deliver on what they promised. But try getting married. It's a totally different thing. You get married, there's no contract. You get married, there's a vow. And that's all there is. It's a vow. And it says, I will not forsake you. You will be mine, and I will be yours. This is the kind of covenant community that 1 Peter is calling these people into. It's about vows. You know, this is where the sermon turns PG-13. I heard this past week on very good authority that even though J-Lo and Ben Affleck didn't get married, they had a prenuptial agreement. And in that prenuptial agreement, it said that they had to have sex 4 times a week. What? That's nuts! I mean, is that wacko or what? There's a contract involved in your performance abilities. This is a little crazy. I mean, no wonder they never got married, trying to complete a contract like that. I mean, that destroys relationship altogether. It's not a contract. It's a vow. And this is the kind of community that we are being called into. It's the kind of community we want to be. One that operates with a vow at the center. I have your back. You have my back. We have each other's back. God has our back. We stand for God's vision here in this world. And it's not written, one after the other. It's simply a promise that comes out of your heart. It's tough in our culture because the kind of individualism creates competition, and competition simply makes friends enemies. Look at what happens when a kid goes from kindergarten to first grade. Suddenly the bell curve is applied to their learning. There are only so many A's in a bell curve, you see. So if you get one, it means that someone else is not going to get it. It is competition that is behind the bell curve, which then causes our youngsters to be learning, not for the sake of learning, but for a grade. And they become objectified like football players. When just a year earlier in kindergarten, it was so much fun. Mom, look at this. There's a plant, and there's up here, you have stems and leaves, and down here there's roots. Isn't that great? Did you know that, Mom? They are alive with learning. And then it turns into competition. And if you think this is of little consequence, one drug counselor in a suburban high school said that one of her students replied to her one day by saying, "Why not get high?" There are only so many top schools and only so many places in the top schools to get into. So even if you get in, your friends don't. Of course, the individual is important, but the house that we are being called to build is beyond individualism to include the health of the entire community. Beyond certainty lay mystery, beyond individualism lay community, and beyond investment and financial profit lay the investment in the living stones, both of the present and the future. And you already know this, because you know that we are here because other people have been here before us. You know that other people have invested in the future so that this building might be here and this community might be here. Dr. Teal, Burton Polly Hall, Bill Hart, Jerry Betts, Art Blair, Reddy Leak, Tom Burbank, Bruce Impt, Dick Cronk, Carolyn Leach, Bruce Porter, a bunch of other ones. And we are called, of course, to invest, not to make a financial profit, but to allow for lives to be healed and for well, you know what's coming. Victoria, Kevin, Gus, Mia, Brooke, Jaden, Lily, Alyssa, Alexandra, Otto, Zeke, Samantha, Griffin, Ella, Ashley, Megan, Garrett, Lucas, Jacob, Ben. I could go on. Those are names of the kids in Kaleidoscope Corner. This is what we're called to do as a church, is to hold mystery above certainty, to hold community above the individual, and to hold people above profit. This is the community that we are called to build, and you and me, we're all living stones who have vowed to make this happen in one way or the other. So I invite you to do so. We'll have a conversation about a potential capital fund drive following church today. We have to vote on it. And what we're trying to do in that is to build a place of living stones where people can be nourished by the mystery of God's love. Amen.